Did we just get proof that from Oklahoma State to Baylor, the BYU Cougars are trying to steal your favorite player? This is a Locked On Big 12, Locked On Baylor crossover. I don't think they are.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy middle of July. We're at so hot you can't even go outside, everybody. I'm Drake Toll from America's #1 Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12. That's Cameron Stewart of Locked On Baylor. Thanks for making our shows your first listen every single day. Why start with Baylor here? The whole Rob Wright situation. We learned at Big 12 Media Days that BYU might just be tampering. And does that word mean anything? I'm not really sure. We're going to start there. Talk Rob Wright. Talk Smith Snowden. Where did that come from? A Utah player accusing BYU of tampering? Yeah, exactly. Then a second really, really bad Big 12 poll has hit the Big 12 conference. This one's not good. This one's very funny. Bud Elliott, who ended up going into the comment section and trying to salvage himself. CBS Sports Bud Elliott, it just is bad. West Virginia at 16, Utah at 1. I can't wait. And then we will end the show with thoughts on the toughest place to play in the Big 12. A BYU player said it might just be Utah. Ooh, more of that later. If you hit subscribe, we get to keep our jobs. So the Rob Wright situation, everybody in this conference at this point, from Oklahoma State to Baylor to Utah especially, has claimed that BYU has been tampering with their players. Tampering is a crazy thing. This is something that's been happening all across college football. But then a Utah football player was posed the question at Big 12 Media Days, did BYU tamper with you? And he was like, no. Well, he's trying to bounce around. It's like, not directly, but then he pointed the guy to his right and was like, well, he dealt with the same thing. And, BYU wasn't the only one, alluding to donors, coaches, somebody, maybe even training coaches that are not a part of the program, have been reaching out to guys like Smith Snowden, asking them to come play for the university. Is this proof that BYU, I'm going to be the objective party here if I can, proof that BYU maybe is doing a little digging around these Big 12 parts?
Look, all I'm saying, when it comes to whistleblowers, when you got a guy with the last name Snowden, typically that leads to the truth. Okay. Yeah, this is an interesting one. Obviously we know about, Keanu Tanuvasa.
Tanuvasa, very good.
Yeah. Going from Utah to BYU. And there's some sort of modicum of knowing what's going to be available to you and who's going to be available to you before you enter the portal. But this feels like the first time that we've heard it from a guy who didn't enter the portal and sounded like he didn't want to or had any inkling towards entering the portal. And in fact, he's a guy didn't even enter the portal, and he's going and representing his team at Media Days, who they picked like 3 or 4 guys, right? So he's a very important part of this team. And he's like, yeah, they reached out, not directly, but yeah, the word got to me. And we know that's how college football works. I'll use a different example. We both worked in the Cape Cod Baseball League, where these guys are playing in the summers of they're still eligible in college baseball. And sometimes, an agent leaves an envelope in the chain link fence at the batting cage. You can't do that. That's the equivalent of this in college football. It's technically not against the rules, that particular, but it does kind of lead to this slippery slope of here's a kid who was a big part of this Utah team, didn't even enter the transfer portal, didn't sound like he had any inkling towards entering the transfer portal. And he says, yeah, they reached out to me indirectly. How many of these guys who are a little bit better than Smith Snowden don't get reached out to indirectly? There's a WhatsApp or a fake Instagram account or something that reaches out to them directly like that when you get to something that feels slimy like this, I know that's a loaded term, but it kind of feels slimy, right? Even though it's not illegal, that does make you think, how much farther does this program go with this?
And I'll Smith Snowden defended BYU, didn't have to. Said they weren't the only one. This is kind of happening right now. It's kind of what college football is. And that's where I land with most of this is it wasn't Kalani Sitake calling Smith Snowden and saying, yep, we have an offer for you. It was very likely Smith Snowden's JV basketball coach, who is a BYU alum, and was like, hey, I got a buddy who's a donor. He'll give you this amount of dollars. That's how a lot. And that is one of the many ways in which you can get around the rules in college football. So I'm not saying that there's this, we need to overhaul the entire BYU staff because they're rotten people. But if I am a big-time donor for a university and I see a player who I think is good, I can call them. Dion brought this up in media days. He was like, I got players on my roster who are like, yeah, I got an offer for $500,000 for $1 million. Dion's like, how? You're not in the portal. Where did that come from?
That's the thing. Like it is slimy, and I know BYU fans don't like hearing that word, but like it also is within the rules. Like BYU is not the only team doing this. But
it's within the rules because I, Drake Toll, am not bound to the NCAA.
Right.
So if a donor at BYU or a donor at Baylor or a donor at TCU, I can call whoever the hell I want and say, I'll give you out of my own pocket. I have an LLC, Toll Marketing or Toll Media. It's a real company.
Wow.
And
one of those, yeah.
And I can give someone $500,000. I can't, but in theory, $500,000 to go play for my favorite team. And I can't be stopped. I can't be. Hey,
boy, TCU is getting real happy listening to this right now.
Make a couple Instagram videos for me, and then it's a trade off. And Deloitte's like, all right, whatever. It checks out.
Yes, we got to do it.
And so it's not the BYU or Baylor or UCF or West Virginia are slimy by nature. It's Drake Toll is.
Sure, but I would say the problem with this in this particular scenario is we've seen it. We've already seen BYU get a Utah player out of the transfer portal. We saw it in basketball. Rob Wright one day was the only guy returning for Baylor, had the keys to the car. It was the point guard for 2025-26. A day later, he enters the portal. The next day, he's committing to BYU with a high seven-figure salary, about twice what Baylor was going to pay him, maybe even a little bit more. That's where you're like, oh, this just isn't how it should be. And again, it is like you're saying, the JV basketball coach, that's what it is. But God, it just rubs everybody the wrong way. And we've seen BYU do it before, and I'm sure we'll see some other teams do it in this conference.
All right. That's Cameron Stewart speaking on behalf of the Big 12 schools that are saying, BYU, please stop.
Justice for Scott Drew, man.
Please stop stealing our players. And
I feel like they're just spam calling at this point. You know what I mean?
Another piece. They've got the capital to do it. And so if they want to, they're putting players in a good spot to win and make some money. And that's something. Coming up, this is a good, terrible Big 12 preseason poll. Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Oh, today's show is brought to you by Gametime. Why is it brought to you by Gametime? Because I want to go to games. I love the Texas Rangers, and it's actually super convenient for me. Oftentimes, if I'm using a different ticketing app, it's actually cheaper for me to buy a flight. My flight is cheaper to go from Savannah to Dallas than it is to go to the actual game. With Gametime, that's much different. Now they're both cheap. We've all been there. You're logging in early and like, tickets are going on sale, and there's games in 2 months. Nope. Gametime. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices, 60% off, up to 60% off with killer last-minute deals. You're tired of endless scrolling and need to find the best deal. Gametime's zone deals. Pick the best seat in the section for you. Take the guesswork out of buying your concert and show tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices, and that is guaranteed. Cameron Stewart of Locked On Baylor. This is it. I think I've found the worst Big 12 preseason poll. And there have been a lot of bad ones. What's great about the conference not doing their own is that individuals say, previously it was anonymous. Now I can just prove to the world I'm stupid.
I don't think you should be talking about Spencer McLaughlin like this. He's a friend of both our shows. I don't think we should drag him so hard.
This one comes from Bud Elliott of CBS.
Oh.
And the best part is when people are disagreeing with him in the comments, he keeps responding. No, don't be mad. Don't say that I'm an idiot.
You need to, when it comes to things like this, Bud, you need to crop dust here.
Just let it go.
Light the fire, walk away, brother.
Number 1, Utah, which conversely, number 9, BYU. 8-spot difference between the two. Happy Holy War. Number 1, Utah. Number 2, Arizona State. Can I say something very controversial right now? And I'm sad. I'm upset to say this. We need more superstars, and superpower teams. Arizona State will not go to the Big 12 championship.
Really?
What? Why? Welcome to the Big 12, buddy.
Well,
get ready to learn Big 12, buddy. Just doesn't. We don't do that.
I do think it's funny that like everybody who's made a poll just like refuses to put Arizona State at number 1.
Yeah, they won't do one, will they?
I mean, Cam Scadaboo had such a good Peach Bowl or whatever it was, right? Peach Bowl, that they just won't put him number 1. They returned more starters than anybody in the Big 12, and they won the conference last year.
Yes. Our friend Bud Elliott says that it's going to be Utah 1, Arizona State 2, Kansas State 3, which, you know what? If you told me Kansas State finishes at 3, great. Cool. That's fine. I can get behind
Sounds about right. Yeah.
TCU at 4, a little higher on TCU than most. But same. Josh Hoover is good. Josh Hoover was at Big 12 Media Days. Not that tall. At least I realized he's kind of a short guy. Yeah.
Shout out to the short kings, man.
Baylor at 5. Also saw Sawyer Robertson at Big 12 Media Days. One of the biggest hugs that I've gotten in a long time. Not short, taller than me even. 6, Texas Tech. That seemed low for Texas. 7, Kansas. The Jayhawks are back.
This is crazy.
8, Iowa State, because Matt Campbell. 9, BYU. 10, Cincinnati. Like, I get it. They've got the Godfather. Corleone is one of the best players in this conference. But last year, July of last year, I said, I get it. They've got Corleone, one of the best players in this conference.
Does that get them to bowl eligibility? Wow.
They were terrible. Houston at 11, I can get behind. That's another one where like, you know what? I actually, in my preseason poll, I might have Houston at 9. There's something in me that just loves Willie Fritz. Though another Big 12 Media Day personality that was awesome. At one point, every other coach would get off the podium and just kind of disappear for a second. You wouldn't see them. Willie Fritz gets off the podium from his opening statement and just starts wandering. Like, someone asked me for an interview, and he's like 65. He's an old 65 man. He's kind of like he's real.
Which one of you whippersnappers was it?
Gingerly walking around in his old school suit. Parker Ainsworth of Locked On Cougs grabs him. I think like one other person, and then he's just kind of standing there awkwardly. Comes up to me
readers to take a picture on his phone.
He shakes my hand. He goes, "Hey, Willie," and I was like, "Good to meet you, Willie. Great to meet you." Asked him about Sean and Brian and Sean Bell. We just salt to the earth, Willie Fritz. This was the first moment that my take of Willie Fritz being a great coach in 3 years started to dwindle because I was like, "Will he be a coach in 3? What will our situation be with Willie Fritz in 3 years?"
We're really like buying at the trade deadline here for Willie Fritz. We gotta get it in now.
This is like when you get Chris Paul and you're thinking, am I getting Chris Paul? What's left of Chris Paul? 11 Houston, 12 Arizona. Brent Brennan tried to do a comedy routine when he went on stage in Media Days.
Yeah.
Because they asked him a question along the lines of, Kalani said that you should play 3 teams in non-conference that are power schools. And Brent Brennan was like, Kalani Sitake? I never agree with that guy. Nah, I'm joking.
I'm joking.
Yeah, I'm joking. Immediately sucked the air out of the room. It felt like Neil Brown was back. We had seen the resurgence of just a Neil Brown.
The man, but not the idea.
13 Colorado. That'd be it for Deion Sanders. I
don't know, man. I think people would find a spin on it. I think there are some people out there that are convinced that Colorado made the playoff last year. I think there are some people who were like, all right, man, what were they, Final Four last year? And someone had to break it to them of like, no, they won 9 games, which is nice. And they 16? Got their ass kicked by BYU.
Colorado NFC Championship. That's the kind of Colorado fan you run into every now and then.
Kind of, yeah, especially in my comment sections. Yeah.
14 Oklahoma State. 15 UCF, 16 West Virginia. He hates Bud Elliott, hates the new head coaches. I would be shocked if Bud Elliott isn't already in the comment section, by the way, of this very video, based on how he's responded to any dissent from this. It's like, no, please don't. But that is Bud Elliott's preseason poll. He thinks that Utah is going to win the Big 12.
Like, I'm always, when looking at these polls, like, okay, how did they get to this? You know, the people that put Texas Tech in the top 3 love the portal, right? They love the portal additions they made. Iowa State in the top 3. Okay, they love having an experienced quarterback coming back. This, it's all over the place. Like, okay, Utah, solid defensively still last year, even though they were bad. Like, we still can't excuse they won 5 games. And again, you and I both agree on this, not loving the quarterback they're bringing in. Yep, number 1. Okay. Then what puts TCU ahead of Baylor then? Like, how does Tech get down to 6th? And it's just like, it doesn't really make any sense, because clearly you're putting Tech 6th because you like maybe the experience that Kansas State, Arizona State, and Baylor have. Iowa State has just as much, and he's got them 8th. Like, I don't know, man. It's a tough one to follow. He's clearly not going by best quarterback. He's not going by most experience. He's not going off of last year. He's not going off the portal. I don't know what we're going off of here.
Vibes, man.
Vibes FC, man.
Straight Bud Elliott vibes. Now, look, I had Arizona State, I think, at 16, as did everyone else. Proven by, this was last year, as proven by the Big 12 media poll. I had them at 16. The coaches did too. So I don't think the coaches are all idiots. Deion Sanders said it's the best group of coaches he's ever worked around, which was awesome.
Which is, of course, he's had plenty. That includes the SWAC.
The SWAC. Are they SWAC?
I believe so. That includes TAPS high school football in the state of Texas, which Jason now Witten has Jason Witten. Didn't back then. This is like 12 years ago. So that is an elite group he's talking about.
Yep. Wow. I don't think I was that crazy for having Arizona State so low last year. And I mean, you can crap on all of us for saying this. So maybe Bud Elliott is a genius, and I'm missing something here. But he loves, and if you like offensive lines, Utah is the best one in the Big 12. I'll give you that. Then this is where I'll end it. Someone comments, why West Virginia at 16? And Bud Elliott's response, honestly, I don't have a great feel for the bottom 5 of the league. Could mix them up. Honestly,
13 could be 16.
I got no idea what I'm talking about. You can mix them up. It's just a great.
You know what do you think? 14? I could move. It's like negotiating a car. Like, yeah,
but the inverse of, the top 11 in the league. Great feel for those.
I'm really like backwards in front on all the top 11.
TCU at 4. Love it. Gotta have it. It's bottom 5. Throw a dart. Coming up, the toughest place to play in the Big 12 is Rice-Eccles Stadium in Salt Lake City, Utah. I think it's Waco, Texas. It's the Big 12. It's a Locked On Big 12, Locked On Baylor crossover. Cameron Stewart of Locked On Baylor. Crazy comment from a BYU wide receiver, Chase Roberts, when he was asked the toughest place to play in the Big 12. And he said, last year in Rice-Eccles Stadium, he couldn't hear the quarterback. I was there. I was in house for that one, and it was awesome. He won't be able to hear Jake Retzlaff this year either. Ooh, unless they just call each other. Man, what do you call me for? Been a while. They probably talk through each other's JV basketball coaches. Retzlaff, who I'm hearing might transfer to a school in the Big 12. I got a call from Mountaineer Paul this week, who was like, hey, man. I was like, Paul, you good? He's like, I'm here in conference. I was like, hell yeah, you are, Mountaineer Paul. I got a you up text from Mountaineer Paul at Media Days. You guys must have got after it, man. I was like, fixing to be. The idea that Rice-Eccles Stadium is the best atmosphere in the Big 12 is something that I can't completely deflect. It was awesome. You've been there. Yeah. It was great. I loved the atmosphere against BYU. It's hard to judge during a rivalry game. For me, it's much easier to judge when you're playing Southern Utah or when you're playing even Oklahoma State and Utah. Rice-Eccles would be better to me to judge a program than watching them compete against their rival. We saw some of the great crowds I saw for Baylor were against Texas and Oklahoma. Sure. Why? Because you want to beat Texas and Oklahoma. Same goes for Utah. So judging by, if I average out their game against Southern Utah, which should be your worst crowd, versus your game against Oklahoma State, it was or your game against BYU, it was very good. Of the Big 12 schools that I've seen, and you and I were there for it, I don't think Baylor is in the top 5. They just don't fill the stands. Even those really good years, it never felt like there was this just reverberation. The game against Oklahoma, that 28-3 against Oklahoma, one of the craziest atmospheres I've ever been a part of. It was electric, great, as loud as I've heard the stadium. Since then, I haven't seen 75% of that. And I don't even know, like post-COVID, I guess did kids just stop caring maybe? There's the whole deal about they wouldn't let students in the Baylor line, and it was like half empty and no one can figure it out. Shout out Matt Burchett, who got just a ton of fire on Sikkim 365. He was just Satan there for a while. I've been to the Bounce House, UCF. The same game where Baylor was down, 27 points in the fourth quarter and came back and won. Blake Shapen, shout out. I've seen a good chunk now of places in this conference, but I was telling somebody this week, and I mean it, man, that Baylor BYU game in Provo, 2022, top 25 matchup. Jaron Hall's the quarterback playing against Gary Bohannon. No, Blake Shapen. Yep. Blake Shapen. And 3 missed field goals at the end of that contest we finally decided that BYU is going to win the game. Shapen overthrows the receiver on 4th and 15. That was when they brought out the Tongan fire dancers with the Cougar. It's like, what's happening?
It was something else, man. Yeah.
It went from, I'll use the word I would have used at the time that I refuse to use anymore. It's the first time I used this word in a long time on this show, but I heard it a lot at Big 12 Media Days from members. I thought, we're going to show up. This is going to be a massive crowd of mostly Mormon people. There it is. Dropped it. Mostly Mormon people.
People. You said people. I can't believe it.
Humans. And I just can't imagine it's going to be this rabid, ruthless crowd. And then the Tongan fire dancer. And I vividly remember it's September and my toes are freezing off somehow. And it just encapsulated what I love about college football. In that moment, I was hooked. I can't say that I've said anything nice about BYU since. But that was something.
That is probably, I'll get back at the BYU fans' good graces here. That's got to be the best college football atmosphere I've ever been in.
Ever.
And I've been to games in Oklahoma.
Gaylord family,
Texas,
which was terrible, by the way.
Oklahoma, man. Woo. I know
one of the worst
game, but come on,
one of the worst.
I couldn't believe it was full. There was just nothing coming from that game day experience. Just nothing at all for one of the great programs in college football. I've been to games at Alumni Stadium at Boston College, and still nothing compared to that BYU.
I have seen sold out top 10 matchup in Tuscaloosa. Not even close. BYU was leagues ahead of what that was. That was almost it's a bad game day experience. Alabama's a bad game day experience. BYU blew it out of the water.
It is incredible. I'd probably put them at number 1, probably because I've been there. Utah I'd put up there. As much as I want to stomp down Utah and this, just tone deaf take after tone deaf take. I'm seeing it on Twitter this weekend of these little Big 12 stadiums don't compare to Rice Eccles. And someone quote tweeted it was like, Utah's got the 7th biggest stadium in the Big 12, but they do have one of the great atmospheres, I would say. And then that second tier of Big 12 atmospheres is what's interesting to me, and that tier of on their day they can have a good one. Which
I would put Oklahoma State possibly in the top tier. By the way, I think too. They deserve mention. Yeah.
Yes. What you would say of when they have a good matchup. It is a pretty good atmosphere. I would put Baylor in that. I guess I'd put the Bounce House in that. Everyone says it's great. I've just never seen a great atmosphere there.
It's just not full right now.
How much I hear it, not full. I'm guessing that on a good matchup, it is that good. But that is purely a guess at this point. I guess you could say that for TCU when they used to have BCS busting.
But I've never.
Days, but I was there.
TCU senior day.
Sorry, go ahead.
They played Matt Campbell. That was 3-9. Matt Campbell, Iowa State. And this is for TCU to go to the Big 12 title. They'd already punched their ticket. It sucked.
Yeah.
It's a $3.25 kick. They let the students, by the way, have $3 beers an hour before the game. They have this happy hour deal where if you get there early, you get $3 beers. Legendary. I had 17 of them.
Pretty great.
And in the student section, and it was just boring. Everyone left by halftime too. It was a blow. Max Duggan, everybody left by halftime. I went to Farmageddon last year. I wax poetic. It's a great game day experience, but from just a crowd and noise standpoint, now looked also tough to judge. It was 16 degrees. Everyone was frozen, but that's kind of what they're built for there. It's kind of what they're supposed to do. Yeah. And I still didn't think it was BYU. What were you going to say?
I was going to say kind of that perfect example of like on their day, it's a good atmosphere, but to use your example of like, do they bring it against their worst opponent? Texas Tech.
Mm-hmm.
Like you get, again, everyone said, night game at Jones, night game in Lubbock. Like that is fantastic. That looks like an otherworldly atmosphere.
But it's
2:00 against Kansas State.
But even night game Jones AT&T isn't a guaranteed win. We've
the last
two times Baylor's played there, they've been night games where they've done where there have been high stakes or some honor of Patrick Mahomes or something, and Baylor's walked out of there with 7 interceptions of the Texas Tech quarterbacks and a blowout win on both occasions.
Yeah.
And 2 Baylor teams.
They scored 100 points in those 2 games.
And those are 2 Baylor teams you don't write home about. That's, I think, 6-7 Baylor and then 8-5 Baylor.
Yep.
And they went to Tech on a couple of years where Tech was fine, at least 5. Yeah, or Joey McGuire all 3 years, actually. Both years, I should say. And just made quick work. Like they... you can't call that a top 5 atmosphere in the Big 12. Not yet, at least.
There's no more important relationship than a boy and his father. Okay, Dave Aranda, Joey McGuire, Baylor, Texas Tech.
That's the one. It's infuriating. It's infuriating as someone myself who has rooted ad nauseum for years on end now for Dave Aranda to be fired. They can win the national championship, and there's just some bone within me after the things that I saw and witnessed. And I can't even say we should have hired Joey McGuire. I can't even say
it's like the ultimate win for Dave through his first couple seasons was we revisit that debate every year of like, should they have just hired Joey McGuire instead, like the players wanted? And the answer's like, I guess not. I guess not. You know what? Tech's fixing up the stadium. They're doing the portal thing. But when it comes down to the games on the field, probably not. Probably not. Kansas State. They push the place out.
I also think West Virginia, post Neil Brown, when we see them come back, could be a top 3, definitely top 5.
It's a great fan base.
Super passionate,
but
them against Pitt, same thing as like a Utah BYU. Hard to judge you on that day because it's going to be good. Yeah. West Virginia Pitt, hard to judge you on that. But West Virginia UCF, how good is your atmosphere? That again, 12 or 13 fan bases in the Big 12. The answer is bad. I mean, you're not alone.
Yeah.
If Cincinnati comes to town, UCF comes to town, 13 of your fan bases here probably are going to have a great crowd.
Like what's it going to be like just for a home game at Colorado this year? No, you still got Dion. He's wearing the cowboy hat, but you don't have the Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah, I don't know if they were rabid. They packed the place out.
No, they sold season tickets, but
rabid.
Were you afraid to go up and play there? Baylor didn't lose because of the atmosphere. Baylor lost because they choked, man. Like, insane. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I would say the only like nailed on ones, God, I don't like saying it, man. Like the nailed on ones are BYU, Utah, Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even Oklahoma State at the end of last year, it was abysmal, like to watch.
That's where I think like West Virginia, I might put West Virginia over Oklahoma State.
You were the one who said Oklahoma State top 3. So you putting West Virginia top 3?
Yeah, I am now. I thought about it again.
What is also funny about this argument is the atmospheres in the Big 12 got better with letting UT and OU leave and bringing in those 4 schools. You know, the respect didn't get better, but the atmospheres did. But UT is fine. You know,
I've been to games of both, and they kind of suck.
Yeah.
For what they are, they're just like, what? This is
for being 2 of the top 10 programs in the history of college football, arguably.
This isn't good.
There's not much there.
I'm not having a great time here. That's Cameron Stewart of Locked On Baylor.
Sometimes.
Thanks for making our shows your first listen every single day. Come back tomorrow. I'm sure we'll be talking about sports or something. This has been It Always Will Be Locked On. Thanks again for making your first listen every single day. Crossover for Baylor and Dose Grande.